Welcome back to the Listening Porch. For today's episode, we're switching it up a bit. We're sharing a piece of Ray's teaching from this month's Selah Creatives gathering, a community of artists and creatives you can actually be a part of at rayhughes.org. Now let's dive right into Incubating the Unseen.
There is no shortage of good ideas, is there? Because we can access those creative energies and that creative muse, if you will. We can access that and find a lot of good ideas. A lot of you folks are amazing idea people. But a good idea and a God idea are not always the same, are they? Let's say good ideas are a dime a dozen, but if you stay in the good idea realm, it'll cost you everything. So here's your reminder. It's not so much about the product. That's not our goal. It's not about the product. It's about the process. And you can look at that in Genesis, can you not? God created, but then he said, I'm going to need somebody to partner with me in my creative process. So he brought Adam into the picture and said, Adam, here's what I've created. Now, you name the animals. You name that. You name that. In other words, you give it its identity and purpose by your involvement in the creative process. So that's process, but what we're really looking for in our creative process is partnership. I want to partner with the Holy Spirit, and I want my good ideas to yield to God ideas. How do you capture and nurture ideas or thoughts and turn them in and take them to the next level? You know, poetry is just well-lit thoughts. They're diamonds of truth, pearls of thought, or a chunk of coal. They all need to be well lit to reflect their beauty and worth. Now, if a diamond is in the dark, it doesn't have a lot of beauty and worth. It's somewhere in a state of gone. But diamonds of truth, pearls of thought, a chunk of coal, they all need to be well lit to reflect their beauty and their worth. So, what are your thoughts today? Because poetry is just well-lit thoughts. These are some of the little nuances and exercises that I find effective in my process. But you could also say art upon a canvas are just well-lit thoughts. Because somebody walks up and looks at that picture, what are they going to think? How is it going to access them intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and so on? So that to me is good idea versus God idea. And one of the little things that we can all do to enhance this part of the beauty of our life as artists is to prioritize night dreams. Pay attention to the images, the thoughts, the words, the concepts that come to you in the night when you're not striving or struggling to create something. You're not looking for a prompt in your sleep. You're not looking for the next great idea. But when those things come to you in those night dreams, prioritize them. Give them place in your life in the mornings. Now, whether that is write down, which is a very good way to do it, doesn't always work for me because I'll start writing that dream and I'll have 2 poems going before I get there. So what I do is I just take my phone every morning and I say, honey, and Denise has got this amazing gift for interpreting dreams. I'll tell her the dream while recording it and catch every little nuance, every little image, everything that I can. I'll try to remember it. So prioritize night dreams. And now I won't go into the whole detail of it, but you remember if we're going to capture and nurture creativity and thought, remember the little maxim that I tell everybody about. There's a difference between a thought, an idea, and a dream. Remember that? You know, a thought is, wow, look at that tree. Look at that beautiful old tree. You know what I think I might do? I think I'm going to cut a limb off of that tree and make me a pocket knife handle. And, you know what? See, that's a thought. Now there's an idea. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a company. We're going to make the most beautiful pocket knives in the world, and they're going to become heirlooms. It'll be passed from generation to generation and carry honor and dignity in that family, in a family blood. Now there's a dream. And you notice how quickly thoughts can be ideas, but then they turn into a dream and they can get out of control. And are they getting out of control or coming in out of the dark? Wait a minute, that was a diamond in the rough. Yeah, I just needed to shine light on it. Now, think of your dreams like that. What's your dreams putting into motion? Writing, for example. What is your incubation process? Because if I get a thought or an idea, is that a good idea or a God idea? What I'll do is, if I don't know the difference, and most of the time we don't, you realize that. We don't know the difference a lot of times until we give them an opportunity to speak up. And one of the ways to do that is treat it like this. You incubate that idea or that piece of art. You keep what you're going to do is you're going to keep it warm or protect it for potential development. In other words, like a plant bed or seed bed. The plant bed is not a garden. The plant bed is where you put the seeds until they become strong enough. They incubate in that process and you protect them until they can be put in the garden and grow and come forth. So then you have to transplant them. Well, if you've let it go and you missed it and you didn't record it, or you didn't write it down, or you didn't give it a place, it is gone. And how many songwriters always say, that line is way too powerful. I would never lose that line. Who could forget that? Well, let me tell you who. It'll be you, and it'll be in about 30 minutes. Because more thoughts are going to come, more lines are going to come. You got to grab a hold of them and let that incubation process be born out of a reality that you value it enough. You value this piece that you're writing enough to hold on to it, and let's see what it becomes. Are you more spontaneous and intuitive, and you ad-lib your way through the whole process? Well, if you're one of those that ad-lib your way through the whole process, you will find out that there will come a day then in your life that you are so ignited and alive with your creativity that there is no way that you can move spontaneously, because it'll be like throwing jazz music into a cathedral. And you put a bunch of jazz players in a cathedral, and it will sound like an earthquake and a train wreck all at the same time, because that building is not built for that kind of music and all of that flurry of notes. It'll just roar around in that room and slide down the wall dead eventually when the echo ceases to ring, because there's just too much reflection. There's too many hard surfaces. You can't capture those kind of tones. That's why cathedrals are built for beautiful things, long notes, cellos and violas and violins and those kind of things, where you can create this ambiance of tone and beauty. That's why there's chanting and there are chanters and so on in one of those places. The place is built for that sound, and that sound is constructed to work there. Let's move on out of that metaphor. How do you start? If you're writing or painting or whatever it is you're doing, here's a question. Do you start with an outline? There was a writer in Colorado just the other night. I texted with her for about, hour and a half. It's her first book. She's trying to figure out if she wants to use an outline. Yes. Do I use outlines? No, I am an outline. I walk around outlining stuff all the time because I never stop writing. Now, if I get focused on a project that necessitates an outline, yes, I'll outline. I could show you a little bit of a quick process. For example, the way I write is I write like, I don't know if you can see that. Okay, these are sketch pads. Well, I'm not an artist, but I use sketch pads as one of the ways I process. I call this the waiting room. I'm constantly with a pen, and also you'll see that a lot of that, I don't know if you can tell, but it's done with a fountain pen. And the reason I do a lot of this with a fountain pen is because I want that tactile experience when I'm writing these things, because that is also a part of engaging neurologically the part of me that wants to write from a place of beauty. So, for example, I have a thought or just a maxim, for example. Sometimes poetry is just suffering on paper. Sometimes songwriting is dying in the key of D. Robins carol at the morning, and the morning's light whispers back. Well, I know what that's going to be. That's probably the beginning of a poem. And I write in all kind of different places. It's just a big hodgepodge of thoughts. But you know what I'm doing? That's an outline for numerous things, or it's a start, it's a prompt. I could go around through here, and the road to hell might be paved with good intentions, but heaven is down a dirt road. Well, I've been writing for about 10 years. I've been writing a book called Heaven is Down a Dirt Road. And it was born out of one of those kind of moments. To overstate the obvious is to disrespect wonder and disregard your imagination. To understate the obvious abandons clarity, welcomes confusion, and betrays your imagination. Be clear and concise with your imaginings, but don't be afraid to set your imagination free. It will come back carrying priceless treasures wrapped in God's love and beauty. So once I get on a thought process, I may stay there. I may leave that there for a month, 6 months, 2 years. I don't know how long it's going to live there. Well-rootedness causes the tree to grow up and branch out to shade and oxygenate. There's the word, just the word horizon. I've written a lot about horizon. Keep that word handy. No bird soars too high if he soars with his own wings. Now that's William Blake. So I write William Blake right under there. If I'm grasping for someone else's thought, if you don't know who William Blake was, he was a mystic, a poet, a writer. He was a Renaissance man in England. Wrote some of their national hymns. He was kind of a homeless guy. He was so eccentric, no one knew where to put him. So they had to just let him be everywhere. Anyway, a profound. Here's one. Now this is, of course, it's not finished. I'll do the last one. Oh, at the top it says, it's easy to get weary when you're building below the sky. So aim higher. Now, the reason I do this is because if I do them on an iPad, I'll wind up, I don't know how to organize well enough to keep them all sorted out. Right now, I have, I think, 1,100 pages of this. Now, that sounds impressive. No, it's the most frustrating thing you'll ever experience in your life. It's not knowing where and how to sort that out. Between nursery rhymes and troubled times, bells ring and ravens cry. Wars rage and we turn the page to see who's next to fall or fly. Sparrows stay away from hurricanes. Hobos sleep in slow night trains. And mothers pray their soldiers home again. Now, all of those are thoughts that carry beauty, weightiness, or the ability to awaken something. I may take one of those lines out of there and write an entire article on one of those lines, or it may eventually turn into a chapter of something. See, but again, waiting room. And then I'll take that from the waiting room, and you can do the same thing artistically. How many, just show of hands, how many of you artists sometimes or have considered to create a waiting room file of your thoughts for your artistic process? I'm going to do such and such and such. See, numerous of you do that. Write out the concept for that picture. In other words, you're sketching in your mind long before you pick up the brush. Songwriters, do you start with a title? Do you start with a hook, a melody, or a chord? The answer to that question is yes. Everybody's going to do it a little different, and from song to song, it'll be a little different. Sometimes you just pick up the guitar and you hit that chord that captures you, and you can't leave until the song is done. So now you're in process and partnership with your artistic expression, and now it's no longer, and it's not just imitation. What you've done is you have stepped over into representation or representing. all of those emotions and all those images and all those sounds that awaken those things. November 4th, I just stepped out on the porch, and this came as fast as I could sit down and go there almost. The sky feels old today. It looks like a story untold, a dream forgotten. A wren sits like a noteless mystery in questioning silence. Feathered and flightless in a wearily gray world, the sky feels old. Or is it just me? The sky feels old today. The trees stand unbothered by the lack of light. Leaves have left them to stand on their own, alone with nothing to tell that hasn't been told. The sky feels old. Or is it just me? The sky feels old today. The wind holds still as a prayer, waiting for an amen. Nothing moves slowly as more nothing finds me. I try to break the stillness, but peace won't let me go. The sky feels young. Or is it just me? The sky feels young today. A shy sun speaks up as clouds move to the tempo of life. The wren sings to deepen peace and welcome beauty. Old memories outshine sorrows and reach for new melodies. The sky feels young. Or is it just me? The sky feels young today. We found our answer and found our song, the wren and I. I love the way that happened. And where did it start? I reached out and I said, that is worth an incubating process. I'm going to take that and that's going to go somewhere. And as soon as I welcomed it into my morning, I got to celebrate. Because as I was writing the thing, in a little while, suddenly the sun started coming out. And so to me, I'm a little odd, but to me, I just got to do that partnership process with the Holy Spirit as I engaged with Him on that morning and gave it room in my life.